The production demands of World War I drew more people, both black and white, to the cities.
The early 20th century is a period of mass migration out of the South. Perhaps as many as 7 million Southerners, white and black, leave the South in what is one of the biggest migrations. And this is part because the South's agricultural economy was not keeping up with the industrial economy of the North. The jobs were better, they paid better. People could make more in a day than they could in a week back home. And so they're really attracted to the North for the jobs that they find there. Factories are at full production and need workers more than ever before. So there are opportunities for working people across America, and opportunities open up for groups who had been excluded before, and African Americans who had very rarely worked in factory work in the North before World War I now had new opportunities.
Corporations in the city, companies in the city would advertise and say to these black workers, come on up, we have work for you.
But the move from the depressed agricultural areas into the industrialized cities wasn't an easy transition for black migrants. Racial tension grew along with the city's populations.
They encounter systems of segregation that make their problems different from those of any other migrants into the cities. This is the era of so-called Jim Crow, which means the era of formal, legally enforced segregation, residential segregation, segregation in schools, segregation in places where you could shop, segregation in parks, segregation in movie theaters, segregation in virtually every aspect of public life.
Cities became more and more crowded with people looking for jobs and trying to find housing.
And as new groups of people came to cities, particularly as new groups of African Americans came to northern cities, there was tension and there was violence. And a whole series of race riots broke out over the course of the war and after the war, not only in the South, but in the North and West as well.
At its worst, mobs of whites stormed black communities, destroying property and sometimes beating and lynching people.
Sometimes they would last for a single day or for a series of days, and often troops would have to be called in. The State Guard might be called in, or various police forces would be called in.
Between 1917 and 1921, social and racial tensions ignited an unprecedented number of riots in cities like St. Louis, Houston, Washington, D.C., and Chicago that ended with dozens dead, hundreds wounded, and whole neighborhoods burned.